Bonsoir. Bienvenue pour cette conférence à laquelle je suis ravie de vous voir si nombreux et nombreuses. Donc aujourd'hui, nous accueillons Peter Chan, qui nous vient de la bibliothèque de l'université de Stanford en Californie. Peter, malheureusement, ne parle pas français. Donc, par politesse à son égard, je vais le présenter en anglais avant de lui passer la parole. So, I'm very happy today to welcome Peter Chan. Peter works as a web archivist in the University Library in Stanford, California. And formerly used to be also a project manager of a very successful email archiving project called Epad, a project which also had an award, I think, the NDSA award. So he's here for 2 weeks as an invited professor at École des Chartes, giving lectures to our students. We also have a workshop tomorrow on Epad. So normally the registrations for the workshop are closed, but if someone has regrets in the room, you can come to me and we can see what we can do if you really want to follow the Epad workshop. But otherwise, I think Peter today is going to give us a very comprehensive vision of the challenges of email archiving today. So many thanks for being here today, Peter, and the floor is yours now.
Bonjour. So this is the only French I know. Thank you very much to inviting me to come here. I hope you will enjoy today's talk. So maybe let's begin. So I want to give you a little bit about my background. So I'm the first digital archivist at Stanford University Library in 2010. So at that time, we deal with, they hired me to deal with some obsolete computer media. If someone know, this is 5 1/4 inch floppy disk. This is 3 1/2 inch floppy disk. This is some zip drive. So young people won't know that, but they are not too far away, compared to papers. Papers are, many hundreds of years, we still can do this. But now, if you ask an IT department to read it for you, I would say 99% of the IT department say they can't do it. So, and I also develop procedures to take care of all those what we call born digital archives. Because in the past, we have papers, physical papers from in our archive. We go in and then we have hundreds of boxes, move it to our universities. Now, in addition to all those papers, we may have computer media, a hard drive, a whole computer given to Stanford. So we need some procedures, how to deal with all those archives. And at that time, when I joined, we also worked with other universities. University of Hull in UK, Virginia, and Yale University, we work together, try to develop a practice, a guideline for all other universities, because it is a common problem for all of us. So we try to develop some procedures for that, and that project got an award from NDSA for Innovation Award. And from 2013 to 19, I worked as the project manager for Epad, which we try to develop a new software to work for email, because we have born digital archive, which have many different formats. Email is one format which is particularly important and also complicated. I will tell you why it's complicated later. And the project also got NDSA award and also a award from UK, which is pretty successful, I would say. And from 2020, I moved to become the web archivist at Stanford University. Web archiving is, in website, most websites last from 44 days to 100 days. Then later, when you click the link, you cannot find the website anymore. That's why we need to collect the website before it's gone, if we think the website has historical value. So, but interesting, archiving website actually have to do something with email. I will tell you later why it has connection. Okay, so when I joined, I tried to build station like that to read the 5.25-inch floppy disk. And I tried to find, the component from the web. And then I find, a shop selling this is what we call a motherboard. And then I checked the connector. And then one of the connectors seems to be the right connector, because you say this one. And then, at the bottom, you say FDD connector. So, but when I email them to confirm, they say, unfortunately, we do not manufacture any motherboard that, support 5.25-inch floppy disk. And then I think they are wrong because they are too young. So I just buy one and then test it. It works. So that's the problem of dealing with obsolete hardware. Is the young people don't know, or the company don't manufacture those anymore. And for Epad project, we are very lucky to get a grant from a U.S. institution, $685,000, which is the biggest grant we have in the library side. And this is a quote I use from a vice provost at Harvard. We talk about archive of the letters has important historical value. And then now less people write physical letters. So those letters are in emails. And then many people don't know how to deal with email. So this, we want to show email actually is very important in archives. And actually in United States, last year in June, we have 3 days conference just for email, talking about email. And then there are actually 2 colleagues from France speaking, at the conference. So this is, I want to show you, actually it's complicated, 3 days conference, and also it's an important media. Otherwise, we won't spend 3 days of conference for that email. And today I want to talk about 8 challenges of working with email archives. And then first is, you need to collect it. And then, as I say, handling obsolete media is another issue. And the third one is broken links. As I mentioned, sometimes in an email, you may include a web link. Tell people, okay, there's a link, go to visit it. But when you click the archives, then the website is already gone. So you are missing some of the information. And the fourth one is, after you have all those files, you need to store in what we call a trusted digital repository. Because for paper media, we need to store in certain temperature, humidity, and then paper will last for a long time. What about digital files? Oops. And also after that, you need to tell people about your email collection. And another thing is email may have sensitive information in the email. How to screen out all those information, which is very important. And also, people are engaging, researching in email archives. So we may need to provide better tools for a researcher to look into an archive. In email, some of the email may give you a search box. Type in a search, you can search who the email is coming from. Or when you send to someone, you can search that. And sometimes you can search the subject. If you know the subject and then you try to type a search term, then you try to do that. But this, we would say, very limited. We want to make it much better. And the last one is, email is one of the media that the digital humanities people try to investigate. So they develop many tools to work on digital humanities. So we can also try to use other people's tools to work on email. The last one is the latest thing in computer, ChatGPT. Anyone heard about ChatGPT? Who use ChatGPT now? Could you raise your hand? Okay, good. So we will mention that later. So first one, when we research, we need to collect email. So this is a questionnaire I developed in 2011. And because we know, for paper media, we know how, basically, give you all the boxes. Put it in if you want to donate to a university, you put in another box. So at the end, we will, take away all those boxes. But email, some people may not aware they need to collect email. And then sometimes even a donor, they may have many different email accounts. So they will remember the current account, but they may have some email account that they didn't use for a long time. So that questionnaire is help the collector to what question to ask. If a person have multiple email account, then just remind them you may have more than one account or your current email account. Then we can try to get all the other emails. For one donor, Robert Quigley, who is an American poet, he had 17 different email accounts. So then, we need to ask the right question when you deal with born digital material. When you ask, sometimes it may not be enough. You may need to pay. Wendy Cobbs, the UK British Library, paid £32,000 for 40,000 email, more than £1 per email. No, a little bit less than £1 for one email. I hope I can sell to Stanford. I have free. I have more than 100,000 email. So, and then sometimes even you don't have to pay. There are too many. This is the George W. Bush, American president, for 8 years. In his email archives, there's 200 million email message. So sometimes even they give it to you free, how to deal with 200 million message. And then after you get it, you may have files stored in obsolete storage media, which I mentioned before. this is 5¼ inch floppy. The one in the photo is an 8-inch floppy disk. It's as large as a iMac computer, portable computer. And in our collection, we have this media. And they don't have a file list, tell us what's inside. The only thing we know what is stored in this floppy disk is try to compile a machine that can read it. So I did that. I go to eBay, try to buy 8-inch floppy disk drive. And then, because those are popular in the 1970s, they are very old. So I know, okay, maybe I should buy 2 drives. In case one didn't work, then I hope the other worked. First one, when I connect all the things, it burned. It has fire coming out. So you see, they are burned, because those transistors, they are very old. So when they didn't have electricity passing through them for a long, long time, when I pass electricity, then it burned. And then I report that. Then, facility people, give me this in my room. Finally, okay, the story didn't end yet. The second drive, I tried to connect. Nothing happened. Nothing. Silence. So then I have to buy the third drive, which luckily, this one worked. So after you transfer the file, now you can read the file in the content. Then you have another challenge, is actually email happens in there are many different email software. So as you can see, on this left-hand side, there are many different AOL. If you are very you're old enough, then you know AOL. There are many different email software. The file they produce sometimes have different formats. So you need a software help you to convert those different formats to a format that you can read with today's software. So this is for the email message itself. And then you will have another challenge. In the email, sometimes people have attachment. They may attach a word processing file. They may attach many different types of files. The same, those they write it in 1980s. So the software they used to produce that file may also obsolete. This is a file that, hang on. This is a file last modified in December 8, 1988. So if you are lucky, you can open it with modern software, but still, there are all those things. What is it? So that's one issue of obsolete files created with obsolete file format. They are not fully compatible with modern software. And luckily, we have some software that help us to do that. Quick View Plus 2020 is a type of file reader which can read 300 plus file formats. So if I use that software to read the same file, you can see actually all those special characters, just a mess. Actually, you see all the tab, you have a space in the first sentence. You see all those special things, that's the space. You know, the software, modern software, cannot recognize the command for that space. Then they produce garbage. And then you see some underline is also, you know, there are some special characters to tell the computer software, if I give you that special command, you should make underline for the word. But now if you are using different software, they cannot interpret the same command. So you need to use appropriate software to read obsoleted, you know, files in obsoleted file format. And then we have another challenge, is emails contain links to websites and files. This is an email message I sent to myself. I share a presentation to you, you know, at the following links. And then I also tell, okay, additionally, there's a website you should go to see. In many cases, you may see that. So when you click the links again, the files are gone. And then when you click the link for a website, you have page not found or 404. You know, the site is altogether disappear. In America, we have an organization called Internet Archives. They archive websites for a long, long time, since 1996. So if you are lucky enough, you may be able to copy the link address, go to that website, paste the link, and then actually, you know, the website that is this website that is missing, actually they archive the site. And then you see they have multiple copies from 2016 up to 2003. And then after that, because Stanford reorganized the website, they take out the page. So, but they have an archived copy. So when I click, this is the archived copy in July 21st, 20 August and 2023. So you have a copy and you can see the contents. Only if you are lucky, they archive your site. And as I mentioned before, different studies talk about the life of a website. It's from 44 days to 100 days. So it's a very short time. And then there are many efforts trying to archive websites in the world. BNF actually do a great job on that. And then Germany, United States, Japan, many countries do web archiving. And then there are also organizations. They do specific archiving. Say Stanford, we have our own archiving program. And there is a project called Mailbag. This is an open source software. You can go to GitHub and get this software. They are trying to use web archiving technology to archive email. Remember, I tell you the connection between web archiving and then email come here. So the email I showed you before, they have a link to a website, the link to a file. We are utilizing web archiving technology in email. And then this is an archived copy of another email, which I list multiple links. And the first link, when I click the first link in this environment, what I will see is the archived copy of the website. And then when I click the second link, is the archived copy of a PDF file that are linked in the email. So if you use this software, try to work it with your with the email archives, then you may be lucky to get all the linked contents. But of course, you have to do it early enough. If you do it later, then if the site is already gone, there's less you can do. So if we do it earlier, actually we have more chance of preserving all those website or linked files in an email archives. Then we have to ask, what file format should we use for preservation? Because I talk about files created in old software, that the WordPerfect file created in 1988. So if we use some format that are more universal, then it may last longer. So then we should care about the file format we should use for file preservation. So in the Library of Congress in the United States, which is the National Library of the United States, so they recommend people to save file email archive in EML, MSG, and PDF format. But I would say, they also have another recommended format for websites. But I would suggest they should include that format for email, because as I mentioned before, in email, we are also archiving websites. So you should also store those archived files in the same format. Now, there's another challenge. We need to preserve email in what we call a trusted digital repository. We know, digital files are fragile. If you have only one copy, okay, in case something wrong with your copy, you should at least have another copy. And then how many copies is enough? This, a further question. Then there are actually much more questions to a digital repository. This is a statement from the Library of Congress. They have talked about level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And then for storage, they have level 1, at least 2 copies. Level 2, you have at least 3 copies. And 1 copy in different geographical location. Because if you have all the copies in one building, if the building got fire, then you have lost everything. Even you have 3 copies, even you have thousands of copies, it's no use. So they recommend at least 1 copy is in another geographic location. So then they have more criteria. And this is, for ordinary archive, it's complicated, whether I should do level 2, level 3, or level 4. So the easiest thing would be go with what we call a certified digital repository by a trusted organization. So if I certify any repository, don't trust that repository. I cannot be trusted for digital preservation repository. In Dutch, actually they have such organization trying to certify, saying this digital repository can be trusted. And there are UK, US, and France, actually CNRS. in France, their preservation repository is certified by this Dutch organization. And they have many different requirements. You need to fulfill all these requirements before they can give you the certificate. Stanford spent millions of dollars for preservation repository, but we are not trusted repository. So this is a very expensive thing to do. Now you feel, we already have so many challenges, but it's only half the way, I would say. We collect, we can read the email archive with different, converter, and then we save the file in a preservation format and then put it in a trusted preservation repository. So the other half is providing access and facilitate research. And then one thing is, for email archives, like many other archives, people have to go to your library to look at the archives. At Stanford, this is very expensive. Stanford, the hotel over there, average about $300 a day. And then at least Stanford around, you cannot walk around. You need to hire Uber or whatever to go around. And then the meal is very expensive. So altogether, you are talking about a few hundred euros a day. So if you spend, a week at Stanford, you are talking about a few $1,000 euro before the, flight ticket. So the way we communicate, there's no standard. This archive actually held by UC Berkeley, Bancroft Library. They talk about, they have handwritten letters and also printout of emails. They only say, we have emails. If you are interested, come to Berkeley and look at that archives. There's another archive held by the Getty Research Institute at Southern California, LA. They have an email archive, and then they tell you the email archive is available for access using Epad software in their reading room. The same, they just tell you, we have email. Come to take a look. So for the Epad project, we think if we can provide more information to a researcher, then they may make a better decision whether to come to Stanford or not to look at that email archives. This website is a publicly accessible website, epad.org. If you go to that website, you can find information from different email archives. So we tell you, okay, we have Richard Fry paper, Robert Quigley's paper, and so and so. In one archive, if you click that particular icon, you will see, okay, this archive, there are 1,322 correspondence. Entities, we define entity as, personal name, organization name, location, and some other event and other entities, which I will explain later. And we also tell you, okay, this section actually is in New Zealand. And then the date range is from 1970s to 2005. And the message, total message, 2,131 message. Sent by the owner, 1,104. then, we give you more and more information about an email. Not only that, we have a list. This is a list of correspondence, corresponding, with the owner of the email archive. So you can see, okay, who correspond to who, and then how many messages, whether they send to them or they receive the email message. So if you are interested in a particular person, whether that person is emailed to, that email archive, you can search here. If there's no such person, you don't have to come to Stanford. You save you a few €1,000. Or, if it's different objectives, it's different, And further than that, this page tells you about the correspondence, who sent to who. This page actually tells you what's inside the email body. If the email body talk about a certain person, then it's not in the to and from, because it's not, that person sent an email to another person. It's just mentioned in the email body. But we use some technology to extract those entities, what we call, and then we list it out and then show to people. The same token is if you are interested. If you take a look at this extract entity, you see, okay, someone talked, mentioned it in the email message so many times. Maybe it's very interesting. Then I want to go to Stanford to look at that email archives. And then when you click that, actually, as I told you before, it's a publicly accessible website. Everyone can go to website and click. So, of course, we only give you what we call a redacted message. Many information is redacted. You can only see the names, the entities in the email, in the publicly accessible website. When you come to Stanford, in our reading room, you can see the full message. So far, we only show the redacted message in the publicly accessible website. And, of course, it would be much better to show you the full message. Someone think that this is the picture of Jack Bush. Jack Bush is the son and brother of 2 American presidents. So he tried to run for presidency. And then, he said, email keep me connected. And then they want to show people he's very open. And then, through those emails, show him, he is a good governor. And then, should be a good president. But unfortunately, a few days later, he pushed emails, but does not redact the PII or the personally identifiable information. It's in the email, because you are showing the full body. When you look at the email message, they have social security number, which is the ID, which they have date of birth. They have talking about kids, taking cocaine in school. So you cannot just release email message. So then first thing, you need to screen for what we call sensitive and personally identifiable information. We have a task force talking about email. They published a report in 2018, which I'm also a member. So we talk about the privacy issues in email. And then there are, of course, we let people know there are copyright issues as well. The owner of the email archive have the copyright of the email they send out. but they don't have the copyright of the email received by them because it's not written by the email owner. So there's copyright issue. You cannot just put it online. You don't have the permission. And then, of course, as I mentioned, there are other considerations. Privacy issue. If an email talk about private life or the health of the owner, you need to be careful. But of course, we need some tools to help us to do the screening. Because of course you can, look at each individual message by, the biggest archive at Stanford email archive we have is 600,000 email message. So it's very hard to do it all manually to review all those messages. So we need tools to help us to do that. And I'm very, very lucky to meet Suhindra Hungo, who is a PhD computer science student. When I met him is 2011. So, and he's working on email. And his email program called Meals. And, he's very nice, he acknowledged me in his PhD thesis. Because he's working on email, but on a personal perspective. He wants the email to remind his own personal experience. He wants to know, okay, 10 years ago, what happens to me? Or, if I look at all my emails for a long time, what happens? You can look at your life through your emails. His perspective is more on a personal perspective. But for us, we can make use of his technology, working on the email archive we collect. So this is what he created in his email. The email software is called Muse, M-U-S-E. This visualization is what is called a sentiment visualization. He defines some email as positive. If you can see positive, negative, grief, shame, anger, emergency, health, vacation, festival, regional, family, life event. He mentioned about his baby born at that time, and then he sent email out. So, and then he, you can chart the email sentiment through time. So this is a sentiment analysis of his email. Another graph is talking about the correspondence. Groups, maybe some groups he defined as his colleague, some is his boss, his PhD supervisor. He also worked at Sun System for some time before. So he graphed that, and then you can see, through the time, and then his wife, whoever. So you could see, throughout a time period, sometimes he sent more email to certain people, sometimes less. So you can chart the events like this. So this is another graph that he produced using his software Muse. And then, of course, when I watch his presentation, I think that's, for us, it's also very useful for email archive in Stanford University Library. So we applied some small university grants, $10,000, and then he helped to hire some programmer because after 2012 he already left Stanford. So and also he his work is not programming. He's not a programmer. So he helped us to hire some people to enhance the program. So initially we applied the internal Stanford grant, $10,000 each. So we have 2 grants for internal, and then we apply for external grant from the U.S. government. First, around 200,000 from NHBRC, and then phase 2 is another 885,000 from IMLS, and then we have another phase for grant, and after that, actually, the development is not from Stanford. After I left, the development went from Stanford to Harvard. Harvard do some development work, and then now is University of Manchester is doing some further work on Epad. They actually have the latest release of Epad. There's an alpha release. They should have the proper release very soon. So, and actually Epad help us to filter emails. And now I can show you one thing we can do is what we call is a regular expression search. A social security number have certain pattern. We have 3 digits number and then hyphen, 2 digits and then 4 digits. So we can enter what we call a regular expression. So 0 to 9 and then 3 digits, and then it's a hyphen, 0 to 9, the number 0 to 9, and then it's 2 digits, and then 0 to 9, 4 digits. And then credit card number have certain pattern. If you have student ID have certain pattern. You can enter the pattern here, and then Epad will help you to search. If an email contains number with the matching pattern, then they will show you the email, highlight the number to you. I changed the real social security number to 111223333 because I should not release other people's social security number. So, but that is the power. You enter a regular expression, and then Epad will help you to search those matching patterns. Of course, email, this is not the only thing, is PI, personally identifiable information. And also the most important thing is what we call is sensitive information. In United States, student information actually is very sensitive. We cannot release any student information. So, and of course, if we want to search whether an email message, because we have some faculty's email archives. So the faculty email archive, they may tell students, what's your grade? You have A, B, or C, or whatever. Those, even though you are A grade, we cannot release those information, not to mention if he's failed. So, and then we have some other terms. In the email archive, we need to search expel, probation, academic probation, cheating. Maybe the faculty report a student cheating on his academic work. All those words you think is potentially sensitive. We can put in Epad we call this a lexicon. Lexicon is different category of search terms you want to search against the email body. So student is one category. Health. If an email talk about health, then you have to be careful, whether you have to redact this email message or not. Personal, if about personal thing, if divorce or whatever, legal things about legal, because people use email for everything almost. You send an email to your lawyer talking about something, then you may need to be careful when you process the email. Crime, when the email talk about crime, then you have to be careful. One category, what we call recreational and performance enhancing drug use. So we went to Wikipedia, and then this is all the recreation drugs that mentioned in Wiki. So we enter all these terms in Epad. So Epad can try to search all those terms for us. If an email mentioned about this drug name, then we want to screen out those emails, and then we need to decide what to do with that email. For Jack Bush email archive, it has about 160,000 email messages. We enter all those search terms, which is a few hundred search terms, and then Epad helping us to search these 300 search terms against the 160,000 email message, and tell us the employment category have 1,230 hits. Recreation and performance enhancing drug use, we have 573 email message which contain those words. So this is how Epad help us to screen for sensitive information. So we enter all those terms, but it's totally user definable. You can define your own terms because this is not in French. So French, you need to do the French equivalent of the recreational drug terms. So what about, everyone use ChatGPT. So can we use ChatGPT to help us? Not on the email message, not sending the email message to ChatGPT, but what I did is I asked ChatGPT, I'm going to screen sensitive emails from an email archive. Could you suggest keywords that I should use? So, and then ChatGPT give me different category of information. Personal information, financial information. Actually, we miss it in our Epad sensitive information lexicon. So this is a good suggestion. Health information, we have something. Confidential business information, we also miss that category in our lexicon. And then we have security information, legal information, other sensitive keywords. So I would say, it's quite sensible. The suggestions from ChatGPT is quite helpful. Remember, ChatGPT, we should not just rely 100% of the answer from ChatGPT. I will give you more example why we should not rely. But you can judge yourself, the suggestions of keywords that, they recommend actually is a good suggestion. So then you can use it. If you think it's not good suggestion, then you should not use it. So now we go to another chapter. Is we need tools. Before is for a archivist to screen the email archives. After we screen that, then is the researcher coming to use the email archive. Of course, the most common way to acquire a digital files is to search. And then in your email client, say Outlook, they provide you a search box, or some other email software. You can also search metadata, from CC, BCC, or sometimes full text. This is the search box in Outlook. You can search from CC, BCC, and then search in Epad. We make it much more complicated. We have simple search, multi-entity search, multi-term search, etc. I will show you each one, individual one. So simple search, we enter a search terms, and then Epad actually not only the email message itself, we also search the attachment, which none of the email software can do it for you. So we search the attachment. So this is highlighted. We enter this search term, and then the result is actually this search term is inside that attachment. And then the second thing is multi-entity search. Is if we go to Wikipedia, we have some description about Jack Bush. We cut and paste all those information and then put it in the Epad entity search. Epad actually is doing first what we call entity extraction. It tries to look for in the text you enter which one is entity, which one is name, organization, location. And then the second thing Epad do is all those extracted entity. You will do a search whether your email archive contain all those entity or not. If it has the hits, if it have match the entity, the one highlight, say University of Texas, all those are highlight, then it show you this result. When you click that, it will take you, okay, there are 3 messages mentioned about University of Texas, and then it will take you to the message. And then we have what we call multi-term search. Jack Bush mentioned, his very education is one of the important topics. So I go to Wikipedia, also find a list of 200-something universities in Florida. And then I cut and paste all this list, put it in Epad, and see in the email archive whether they mention any of this university or not. And then if it has a hit, it match, then it highlight for you, and then you click, it take you to the email message. And then lexicon search is, what I tell you before, the search for sensitive information. It's not only for sensitive information. You can create a lexicon for other purpose. So we define a lexicon for a composer. A composer, maybe there are different search terms you want to search against a composer email archive. So you create a new lexicon for that. And then this is, you define a category, say congratulations, and then you enter all those search terms. And then Epad will do the search for you. And this is the sentiment lexicon. So if sometimes we don't know what to search. So, in paper forms, sometimes we read individual message and we find some discovery. So emails, sometimes there are too many for us to read through all of them. So then the alternative is to extract something for people to browse, what we call. And Stanford have a software called what we call a Stanford Named Entity Recognizer. It's developed in Stanford Computer Science Department. And then it's doing name entity recognizer, it extract persons, company names, general protein names, etc. And then, this is the result from an email archive. Actually, this is the name mentioned in the email. So we use entity extraction to expose all these names for you. So if you don't know what to search, you can take a look at the list of persons mentioned in the email archives. Then maybe it gives you some hint of what to do in the email archive. And then in the Epad project, we further develop the Stanford computer science developed software to what we call a fine-grained entity extraction. So this is the wiki page of John McCarthy, who is a computer scientist at Stanford. On the on the left-hand side, in wiki page, you can enter whatever text, what we call a free-formed text. But on the right-hand side, you see a box, rectangular box. It gives you award, born date, alma mater, fields, influence, all those what we call a structured terms. Is structured. Say awards. There's an entity called awards. Before Stanford name entity recognition recognized personal name, organization names, location. But awards now is a different type of entity, what we call. So in Wikipedia, actually it gives you all this structured information. So Epad actually make use of that. So there's another organization. They get all this structured material and then put it in a file for people to download. So we download this, what we call the DBpedia, and then we train our entity recognition software to recognize certain entities, new entities, in addition to person, organization, and location. So we have an entity called law firm, disease, mountains, museums, company, event. So I'll show you, say event. This is the email archive for Ian Webb. And then in that event entities, it mentioned about Super Bowl, which is a football games in America. And then Venice Bienna. So by browsing this, you may be interested. Okay, why he talked about Venice Bienna. So this gives you, if you don't know what to search, you browse the email archive by those entities. It may give you some hint to what to look for in that email archive. And then what about generative AI? And let me just go to that. If I ask ChatGPT about high-speed train in Florida, give me a paragraph talking about this. It will give you a paragraph, but there's no code. You don't know whether it's true or not. So for us, for archives, there are two, challenge for us to use things like ChatGPT. First, what we call artificial hallucination. Yeah. So he will tell you something, but you don't know whether it's true or not. Second thing is you are sending your information to, say, ChatGPT server, and they tell you they will look at the information. So then you should not send sensitive information to ChatGPT or similar service. And then, here New York Times talk about ChatGPT who hallucinate 3% of the time. Google hallucinate 27% of the time. And this from Reuters, tell you a lawyer who prepared the case with 6 fictitious cases. The case does not exist. He asked ChatGPT and ChatGPT called him the case. 6 of them do not exist. So the law firm fined $5,000 for that. And Samsung engineer tried to ask ChatGPT to fix his computer software code. And then Apple and all this restricted, because computer software code actually is company secret. And Apple, many organizations, restrict the use of ChatGPT. But for us, the happy thing is you can run all those what we call large language model. ChatGPT is one of those. locally in your own computer without sending information out. So, and then so it solves the problem of security and privacy issue because you are not sending information out to a external server. You install the software in your local computer and then run this in your local computer. So you are not sending information out. And the other thing is there's another technology, what we call retrieval augmented generation. It's easier if I show you this graph. So you have a question, and then you send to the local LLM installed in your computer. And then that software actually look at another, what we call a specific knowledge base. You have to prepare for that. So in our case, I put the jackboot's email message into that specific knowledge base. When I ask question, it will give me answer only from that knowledge base. So, and also it gives us the quote. So I will show you this one. I asked Pirate GPT is a kind of GPT that you can install locally in your computer. And then I asked, what did the email say about high-speed train? And then it give an answer. It called me the source. You see, it called me source 1, source 2. And then, source 1 is there's a email talking about the high-speed train. You can look at the content to verify, check the Pirate GPT answer. So then you can be sure the answer is not hallucination. So then we can make use of other digital humanity tools. And one of them is what we call a social network analysis. So there's some software to help us on that. Social network analysis is you want to see who communicate to who. So it's easy if I show you this. This is what I did with a Stanford colleague in 2011. So this is Robert Quigley email archive. One line is, there's a point, 2 points, and then draw with a line. So Robert Quigley communicate with some other people, then this is a 9. So, and then you can see, I don't think you can see it because it's not clear enough. He communicates a lot with his ex-wife and also his son, and then his editor of some books. So, by doing that, you can see the social network, what we call, in a graphical form. So with so many email messages, I think this is a very useful tool. This tool is not designed just for email. It's designed, for other network analysis, but we use it in the email context. So this is a bigger picture. And MIT, at that time, 2013, 2000, many programs, they use NIS email. So MIT also produced a program called Immersion. On the lower left-hand corner is the Immersion is the name of that project. They are also employing social network analysis. They let you do it online. You can send your the correspondent, all those from email to and from, all those information to their website, and then they will draw the network analysis for you. And this is the network analysis, the network diagram that they produce. is open to everyone. But now the website is already down, so you cannot do it anymore. In 2013, you can do it. And not only social network analysis. This is just highlight one people. And then on the right-hand side is the collaborator. So okay, that person communicate most for the top person, and then less and less for the following people. And then on the left-hand side, they tell you what's the topic. For the email, they talk about apartment, rent, movie, beer, etc. So, so this is very interesting. Because as I mentioned, email archive, you have so many messages. It's hard for you to read one by one. With all these tools, actually, they are very useful for people to investigate in the email archive. In Epad, we can help to do that. Is we have an export function. You can export only the headers. Header is what we define as the to, from, CC, BCC, and then the date. If you have all this information, then you can use it and use some social network analysis software to create the graph for you. So this is one thing what we did in Epad. Another type of tools that the digital humanity people use a lot is what we call topic modeling. Maybe it's easier for me to show you an example. So this example show you, they talk about 1,000 documents, and then they have first document. Say if the document have dog is an animal, dogs are loyal, and then the second one, cat is an animal, cat are evil, and then etc. Each document have some words, and then you try to extract all these terms in the bottom. Say dog, animal, loyal, cat, evil, Olympics, corner, AI, beat, player, flying, cars, driven. They extract all the terms from all the 1,000 documents. And then you can try to see which terms can be grouped together. So, and then they will say, okay, there is one topic, animals. For all those extracted terms, maybe there's another topic mentioned about sports. And then the third one is those mentioned about technology. So then you can group this, and now as a whole, so for this 1,000 document, some of them mention about this topic, animals. Some mention the topic sports. Some mention about the topic tech. Similarly, for email, if you can use topic modeling software to put all the tags in the topic modeling software, and then try to see is there some topics coming up from all those emails. And if there, you may discover some topics you are more interested to discover, then you can narrow down. Say Jack Bush email archive, you have 160,000 email messages. And then for a particular topic, there are 20,000 messages. Now you are narrowing your research from looking through all the 160,000 email messages to 20,000, which is much more manageable. So still, of course, it's hard. But this is another digital humanity tools that people can use to investigate email archives. So there are software, open source software that you can download and use. And in Epad, we provide a facility letting people to export what we call original text. Because a email, when you reply, sometimes you will attach the previous email content in your email. So if we just output the body, is it clear? So if I send an email to you, and then I say hello, and then when you reply, and in your email, reply to me, they may quote my Peter say hello in the email body, and then with your additional text. So when we do analysis, then we are double counting some message. So that's why when we call original message, it's only the people who send, whatever he or she write is the original message. Everything come under is not original, so we separate them. So to avoid some double counting. So far I talk about the 8 challenges: collecting email, handling obsolete storage media, booking links, preserving email in trusted repository, informing people about your collection, screening of sensitive information, providing tools to inquire email archive, and then leveraging digital humanity tools, and also the latest development in generative AI to analyze email. I hope this will give you some information about email, and then I provide some reference in the slide. If you are interested, you can look at those references. So I hope you get useful information tonight. And is there any questions that you want to ask?
Thank you very much, Peter. And if there are questions, I can bring the microphone to you.
Bertrand Caron, Bibliothèque nationale de France. Thank you, Peter, for this very interesting conference. I had a question about the content that is sometimes stored in other formats of web email archiving formats. When in France, administrations in general have Outlook, and they have PST files. And so in PST, you have contacts, you have agenda items, you have tasks, etc. You may have all these data. And what's in general, what's the US policy about, should we keep this, or just is it okay to discard it? And if we have to keep some of it, in which format? Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So so far we didn't talk about this, other information you mentioned. But at Stanford, our policy is collect as much as you can, and then later, whether you work on that or not, we can do it later. But because if you don't collect, then you cannot work on it anymore. So hopefully, if in future some people think the agenda is very interesting, then some people may have to develop a software to analyze the agenda information from Outlook or from all other different software. So I would say, email actually is already very hard for many people. So, the other information you mentioned is even more harder. Of course, there are, in the States, basically, if you are interested in something, then the example is my case working with Epad. Then we have some internal grants because usually they won't. I have my own job, so if we want to do it further, then we apply some external grant. Then we can get the grant. We can do, say, example, the agenda item. If the granting agency also think it's important, then they may give you some money, and then you can hire people to work on that. Same for mail-back-it, the software that can archive websites mentioned in the email. They also get a grant, and then they hire some programmer to do that. So all the information, I would recommend to save those information. Nowadays, actually, storage is not expensive compared to other things. The most expensive thing in the state actually is labor. Finding the people to work on those is the most expensive. Storage is not expensive. So for us, our Stanford policy is collect as much as you can. And then whether to use it, then we can decide later. I hope this answers your question. Yeah.
Marie Laperdrie, archivist in the banking sector. Thank you so much for your conference, because maybe there's some hope, I hope, for me for collecting some email archives. My question is about the fact that today with Microsoft, for instance, we have OneDrive, SharePoint, and we use emails to send some link with special rights. Especially you said to your colleague, I send you the rights for this colleague and not that colleague. So when you're an archivist and you need to collect these archives because you know that it's so important for your data strategy, how can you manage now? Do you have some requirements, or do you have some tips to do it? Because it's with all the turnover we had on the HR, the human resource, and you change like 2 or 3 years every one change in the banking sector. So how can you manage it to collect the important data without losing the most sensitive and the most important data?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a very good question. Similar to what I mentioned, the email contain links to website, link to Google Drive. So some Google Drive is open to everyone. Some Google Drive is only for a certain person. So the mail-back-it software is limited in what it can do. So I would say so far I haven't seen any projects targeting specifically. Even the mail-back-it software cannot deal with Google Drive. So it can deal with the link to PDF, but not Google Drive. So when I talked to the developer, so he asked me to create a ticket in GitHub, because the way is the way people work in the state. If more people request that function, then he can go to a funding organization, say, oh, this is important. See, so many people request that. Then they have more chance to get money to further develop the software. I would say, the mail-back-it software is excellent because it gives people more hope. They say, okay, actually, you should also archive the links to website, to link to Google Drive. So it's just, the software is not mature enough. Epad actually developed from 2013 to 19. We get all together, all the grants together is $1 million. Of course, $1 million, at Stanford at least. The time when I get $685,000, actually, the money I can use is only half of them. Stanford get another half because for all projects is the school, because they say they provide you the facility, Say if you are researching some, nanotechnology, you are using the multi-million equipment. So they say, okay, I take half of your money. But for your overhead, but my case, I don't even have an office in Stanford because I am hiring all, overseas people. But still, Stanford take half of my money. But anyway, this is how we work. So if I think it's extremely important because nowadays it's almost impossible to do attachment. Say, if you do an attachment, if it's very small file, it's okay. For bigger file, it's already most email clients will say, no, you exceed the file limit. You cannot send the attachment. What can you do? You store it in the Google Drive or the shared drive, and then you give people a link. And then that's it. So most of the information nowadays, it will contain links to SharePoint or whatever. So if it's not archived, actually I mentioned in last Tuesday, I gave a lecture to students. This one of the things, I mentioned only two things. One is generative AI. The other thing is the incomplete information in the present-day email archive. Because in the email, it says the file, and then you don't have the file. Then you are not archiving the complete email information. So I would argue it's extremely important. I hope, if people in States don't do it, I hope someone in France will do it that can benefit everyone. But I'm sorry, so far I don't see any project working on that. But I would say the Mailbag It project is a good start. So if anyone wants to do that, I would recommend them to look at that project, maybe work with them, because those are all open source software. You can just work on that. They have no licensing limit for you to work on the software. So they are not working now, if you talk to them, if you do it from scratch, then you may spend a year or 2 years for that. But if you are enhancing that software, you may be able to do it for a few more months. So I would recommend people look at Mailbag It software in the GitHub and then try to work with the developer. He's very nice. I email him for some question and then I get the answer immediately. I hope I answer your question.
Peter, I have a related question for you that was sent to me before this conference by a colleague who unfortunately couldn't be here today, and she asked me to ask you the two questions actually. One of them is related, I think, more or less to this topic. We have more and more communication that is not going through email, through other kinds of messaging systems, instant messaging, or messaging systems that are combined with other applications. So are you aware of any initiative to preserve that content? And our second question was whether we are ready yet for an history of email archiving. A history of email archiving. So it was a meta question.
So for all other communication software like WhatsApp, many people use WhatsApp, Slack, many people use Slack in US in company messaging meetings. So far I haven't seen any project on that. Twitter is another one. Twitter actually, before they have a project, social FM, I forgot the full name. But now, because initially Twitter allowed people to extract the message from their server, but now they are blocked after Elon Musk bought the company. They shut down the API. So you cannot use that software to archive Twitter message anymore. So I would say now all those will become more and more difficult, because one reason is most companies are shutting down all those API because they know everything, the information now is very valuable to train the large language model. The ChatGPT, actually they are making use of many public information or the information that are in some server that are before they are public. Twitter, they may also use some Twitter database to train their large language model. So, and now because people know that field is, they may sell it to the company who want to use it to train their large language model. So I would expect more and more companies will shut down all those API. Then if they shut down the API, there's no way you can archive those information in bulk. But there's one project, web recorder. So they are archiving websites, but you can also use it to archiving, say, Facebook. But it's a more manual process, so you cannot do it in bulk. So for, say, Stanford, so we use web recorder to archive some special topics. And then, so Stanford or American style is you do something, even though it's not full solution, you just do it first. And then you have all those files, then maybe you can develop software to do the analysis later. But as I say, so far, I don't see projects on doing all those analysis in volume. And then the web recorder project is more manual, so you can only target, say, one person, one particular subject, and do it manually. And I would say for bulk archiving, there definitely is less and less hope because people are shutting down the API. The history of email, I would say, people are using less and less email. Actually, today, I received an email from Suhindra Hanko, who is the PhD candidate. At that time I met, he's in India now. There is a article in New York Times. People saying he used Gmail for 20 years, and now he decided not to use Gmail anymore. So we talk about the history of email. 20 years ago, many email accounts have a very low quota for you. Then Gmail is the first one that have unlimited email storage. Then before you need invitation. So people try to know someone who work in Google or whatever, try to get an invitation. And then people are so happy to get the Gmail account. Because now there's no limit. Now, and then that New York Times columnist talking about now it has more and more and more email. Basically, he say sometimes he receives so many emails a day. So there's no way, he can read through all those emails. They are just too much. And then the unlimited quota don't mean anything for him because actually he cannot make use of the Gmail account. Email is not a good way to communicate anymore. So he mentioned about, sending email to everyone, telling his friends he's closing down his email account. Don't send him email anymore. I would say, more and more people are not using email. And then I would say in company are still using email. But also, there are some message also go to Slack and other messaging application like WhatsApp. So they are definitely, I would say, for personal level, then I would expect less and less people using email. And then for company, they are only basically company email. So maybe it's the right time start the history of email. But I would expect, companies still use email, and then for formal communication, more formal communication, email will still be used. I don't think you don't use WhatsApp to do a more formal communication. Yeah, so that's my guess.
Any other questions?
I'm Anjali, archivist in the Cultural State Department. I have a question about collecting emails. You have presented the survey from the survey form you used to interview people before collecting their email. I would like to know how to use the answers of the survey and how does it impact your email archiving strategy, your appraisal and your choice, your selection. Thank you.
Yes. So let me go back to this survey. This survey, as I mentioned, have multiple purposes. One is if they have multiple email accounts, then it reminds people to collect all different email accounts. And then you also ask people, say I have one instance for a faculty email. So I asked the person, actually Richard Fies, is there any person that you want us to redact the email or don't show the email in the email archives? So then few months later, he gives us a list of 200 something email accounts, telling that every emails exchange with the people in that list you should remove from the email archives. So in this conversation, actually you can ask all those questions. So give us a list of email address. The way he do that is all the lawyer email account, doctor email account, all those is much easier to get compile a list. So it is definitely advisable for you to ask people, give me a list of all those. And then in Epad, we have a correspondence list search. You can cut and paste all this list of 200 email, and then Epad can search all the email that are correspond with all those people. And then you can do a bulk redaction or a bulk label. So in Epad, we have different phases. First, what we call a appraisal phase. If you say, if 200 something email account, and then at the end, the result of the search is 50,000 email. Then you can label all these 50,000 email. And then we export the email archive to next level, what we call a processing module. And then that archive will not contain that 50,000 email. So you are removing, basically you are removing those email correspond with the people, people say don't keep in your email archive. And then the original archive, whether it depends on your policy, whether you can delete it or you can keep it, just don't show anyone. So, and then the processing module is contain the email archive a little bit cleaner. At least it's cleaning the first stage. And I would say all those, this questionnaire is developed in 2011 because email is a little bit different from paper form. The paper is somewhere, but electronic, then it may live in the cloud. If don't create a questionnaire to remind people, say photos. A donor may have some photo image stored in Google Photo. Maybe that is also something that you want to archive. So then you have to ask the donor whether that is also something that he or she want to donate. And if he or she want to donate, then the same thing. Whether it's everything in one Google photo, or they may have photo in different place. People may have photo in one computer, and then some photo in an older computer, some photo in a external hard drive. So by listing all those potential questions in a questionnaire, it helps you to do the collecting process. And of course, also the appraisal process. You ask the people whether they want you, or they let you to archive all those information. Same for other social media account. Facebook is another media that you have to ask whether they want you to collect or not, because in an archive, that may contain very valuable information for a person. So if they let you do that, you can do that as well. So in particular for email, I would say, sensitive information is the most important thing to gather. Ask the person, is there anything you want us to be careful? Say personal health or some legal thing that you think, it may contain in the email. If that's the case, ask him some terms. If he cannot, give you the email address, say, he cannot, it's some older email, he cannot find the email address. Ask him or her for the name of the firm. Then you can at least do a full text search on which email, contain those names. So definitely ask on the the keywords for screening for sensitive information. I hope this answers your question. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we are all fascinated, and there are probably many questions in the room, but we probably need to wrap up. Maybe one last question, but you had raised your hand. Okay.
I will be quick. Thank you very much for your conference. I am Magali Moison, assistant professor in archivistics in University of Angers. You mentioned the methods you used to identify sensitive information. I was wondering, to what extent do you consider these methods reliable, and do you use it, or do you consider using it to restrict access to emails?
Could you say it again? I didn't catch the first.
The first one, you mentioned the methods you used to identify sensitive information in emails.
Yeah.
So, and do you think it's reliable, and to what extent is it reliable according to you? Because there is no yes or no answer, I guess, to this question. And
yes.
I was wondering.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Yes, I think this is very difficult. So that's why you try to do your best thing. That's why we have two approaches. In Epad, you try to list all the keywords. Second thing is I use WhatsApp, ChatGPT. I asked, last week's lecture, I mentioned use ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT if there's any sensitive information. Is any email contain criminal crime? And then is there any information mentioned about health? then ChatGPT or the similar thing will try to use his own database, own judgment, what is sensitive, to take all those, to screen out those email for you. Then you may find out you are missing some message, which because you didn't define the keyword, of course it won't show you in Epad. So I would suggest those large language model, you should use it. And then the final thing is, if you are very conservative, then you may have to ask people, give us the question. We will try to give you the answer, say 100 email, and then you have a person to review all those 100 email before you send it out to the patrons. Yeah, we can talk about that after the lecture. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much again, Peter, for your talk.